Oh, Mike, now that we're in love, how are we going to tell the kids we're getting married?
Gently. I think maybe having a family meeting and involving them in the conversation would be the best idea.
Yeah, that'll work. Just be prepared that Marsha's going to make it all about her because it's always Marsha, Marsha, Marsha.
Well, Greg's not much better. He's pretty good at the drama himself. So I think we have two peas in a pod.
Well, this will be an adventure. I'm Carol Almost Brady.
And I'm Mike Brady.
And we're stronger together. So every Friday night, sat around the TV and I watched the Brady Bunch navigate their blended family. And I was part of a blended family. They made it look so easy. And of course, they solved the problems in 23 minutes. We didn't have commercials in our household, so the temperature was always pretty high. And I wondered if they had some kind of secret. And it turns out they did not. It was not real. I know, Hollywood's not real. Who knew? The Partridge Family was another example of a family trying to figure out life with a single mom and a bunch of kids. And they seemed to have it figured out too. All they had to do was sing a song and everything was better. That didn't work for us either. So how do we step into a role as a new blended family or even a potential blended family? You may not be ready to go there yet, but you may be closer than you think.
Romans 8:24. For in this hope we were saved, but hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what they already have? But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. When you're preparing to blend two families together, there can be obstacles. They don't necessarily have to be big or, really a deterrent, but they're there. And you have to decide how you're going to navigate them in your daily life. They may not last for years and years. They may only last months. Everybody is going to have to get used to a new situation. Family members include parents, children, and siblings, and they all have an opinion on how you should be moving forward in your life, all of your lives. This can be daunting.
If you've been a person in grief from loss, a lot of times the shift goes from parent to child and reverses itself to the child taking care of the parent because they are seeing you in a different light and they want to take care of you. Well, eventually you outgrow the grief journey a little bit and you're ready to take on new adventures, maybe meeting somebody special, growing your family, getting married, but your children still see you as somebody that needs to be taken care of. So the conversation needs to change from I'm in grief to I'm ready to grow again. And I think that's a fair conversation to have with friends and family members. Today we're focusing on family specifically.
When Carol and I began dating, I took her two youngest children to a restaurant to dinner, and I asked them if it was okay if I dated their mother. They seemed to think we already had started when we had not, but that seemed to be the overarching theme of everyone that we talked to.
It was actually our kids that asked us if we were getting married. We weren't really thinking along those lines. I think we assumed the other person wasn't ready for marriage. I know it took me a little longer to be ready.
I was not ready initially.
So it took us a little bit longer, but our kids were the ones that were saying, are you guys going to get married? And I think that actually put the thought into our heads. Sometimes your kids can be your best advocates. I think being open to conversations with your family, that you're moving from the deep, dark caverns of grief to the light of day is an important conversation to have. And if there's somebody special in your life that's bringing those smiles back to your face and the laughter back in your heart, invite them into that conversation and say, yes, I'm talking to somebody or seeing somebody special that's making me feel happy again. And I want you to feel happy for me. The person isn't replacing the lost parent. That person is starting a new book.
If you are in a relationship attempting to replace the person you're divorced from or who passed away, you are in that relationship for the wrong reason. It should never be about replacement. You can maintain the love in your heart for that other person. That's not a crime. That's not a bad thing.
And you're not disregarding your children's grief journey because you're ready to move on. Again, we reemphasize that we would never want to manage somebody else's grief, whether it's our children's or our friends' grief, our siblings going through it. We don't want to manage how they grieve. At the same time, we don't want their grief to hold us back if we're ready to move forward.
Having a conversation with your children about their parent who passed away or is no longer in your life specifically for whatever reason is good. You can talk about the happy things, the good things. You can talk about how it's nice to have those things again in your life in this new relationship. Make them a part of the conversation. Allow them to give you their input without disregarding it. But they need to also understand that ultimately this is your decision.
I think that's the overall message we want to convey here, is that you moving into a new relationship isn't anybody else's business. It's yours and God's. And other than that, you can comfort other people. You can remind them that this is your life to live and that you feel guided to make this decision. Now, if there's red flags that other people might be seeing, you could listen to those. But otherwise, don't try to manage their feelings about it. Be understanding, but don't let that hold you back.
And understand it will probably take them some time to adjust to everything. This isn't going to happen overnight. Be solid in who you are. Be solid in your relationship with your spouse and God. And in that rock, that solid ground, you will build new relationships that will last a long time.
On the flip side, don't force your relationship onto your children. Don't make them call the new person mom or dad. Don't assume that they want to be a family unit. That integration can take years, and that's all right. It depends on the age of your children. It depends on how long you've been single. It depends on their own grief journey. So there's a lot of things that go into that. It took our kids a while to adjust, even though they were cheerleaders for us getting married for the most part. But it's still an adjustment period.
I never expected any of Carol's children to call me Dad. I'm Mike. They can call me Mike. They can call me anything but late for dinner, but it's their choice.
You know, if they're listening to this, they're going to call you Mike from now on.
That's okay. Anything but late for dinner.
Right. Or they're going to call you to fix something.
That could happen.
That does happen. I think if you're the new person in the relationship moving into somebody else's family unit, you need to be prepared that you will likely be tested and challenged in some ways. That's pretty normal. The kids need to know that you're going to be stable, that you're going to be a good match for their parent that they love. It's not a reflection on how they were raised. It's like a toddler testing their boundaries, or a teenager, or if you're lucky, both. But you're not in the relationship with the kids. You're in the relationship with the other adult.
That's truth. And as the new person, you'll find yourself feeling left out of the loop occasionally. Don't take that personal. It will take time for everyone to become a meshed unit. There will be a lot of remember when stories and memories shared that don't include you because they're memories made previously. If this offends you, you are going to have to figure out how to work through that. It's nothing personal. These are very real aspects of a new relationship. Just be present and grateful that this family has so much to share about the family background, and you get to be a part of that because you are also going to be making memories like this. One day, they'll be talking about you just as they're talking about someone else.
When this first started happening, I felt left out. It was kind of like standing outside looking in a window at a family that I wasn't a part of, and yet I was a part of the family now. So it felt a little odd at first. And then I had to remember these were really precious memories, and the fact that they were sharing them out loud meant that they felt comfortable enough to say these around me. So I took a new perspective. It wasn't about leaving me out. It was about including me in these stories. But the fact that they could be discussed around me so comfortably, so openly, it let me see this family in a different light, and it made me feel grateful that I get to be a part of this now.
And having current traditions is awesome, but leave room in your life for new traditions or accepting traditions from the other spouse's side of things. it's okay to have a new tradition and sometimes put a tradition to rest depending on what it is.
Ultimately, the decision to move forward in your life is yours. But being compassionate towards your children and family members who may be concerned about you is important too. Just leave the conversation open. Let them be mad if they need to or withdraw while they figure out what their role is. I know when my parents were entering new relationships, I worried that it would change my relationship with my parent. That somehow the shiny new toy was going to be more fun than I was. So just reiterate to your kids that they will always be your children. They will always be precious to you. That the shiny new toy is not going to surpass your relationship.
I think it's very important to remember that the children on either side of this relationship are individuals. And my children were raised in the same house, same parents, same rules. And they're very different people. They are absolutely their own people. This is important to remember because if we try to apply what we think they should do, how they should react, what they should say, how they should behave, we are setting ourselves up for a little disappointment.
Especially if your kids are a little bit older, teenagers or adults.
And if they're strong, if they're strong individuals, that's going to be a factor.
There'll probably be some backsliding also. We waited quite a while before we got married, and mostly we were ready, but we wanted to make sure the kids, who weren't little, but we wanted to make sure that they were going to feel ready. So we waited until we felt that they could accept it. And there was still some pretty big feelings on the day of the wedding. And that was okay. I didn't see it as a disadvantage or a statement about our decision.
Just as in your life, the loss of a spouse was a big life change, you getting remarried, especially for your children, can be a big life change.
It will be a big life change. It's a whole new person with whole new habits and background and experiences, and that could be the best thing ever. So focus on the positive things that this person is bringing into your family and all the ways that they can make your lives more interesting and exciting, including everybody in the process, but not the decision making.
Yes, ultimately the decision to move forward is yours.
Amen.
Amen.
So in our next episode, we'll be talking about getting to know each other. You're marrying or getting into a relationship with somebody completely new.
After 20 plus years of marriage and you remarry, the old ways of doing things aren't really going to apply. It can be awkward. It can be not frustrating, but there can be some anxiety.
Could also be fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. It certainly has that.
Yeah. So that's our goal
But
for our next podcast.
Yeah, there is a learning curve.
Just like any new job, any new place to live, maybe you're doing all of those things at once. So I'm Carol Brady signing off.
And I'm Mike Brady. I'm out of here.
And we're stronger together.
Sandy? Tell me about it, stud.
Join us next time when we talk to Sandy
And Danny.
and talk about what it's like getting used to living with somebody new.